Hello, Sarnia Lambton. I'm pleased today to welcome one of our own, Sarnian, Dr. Suman Chakrabarti, um, born and raised in Sarnia and works in Mississauga now as an infectious disease specialist. And you might have seen him on bigger networks than ours and CBC and CTV News. Suman, thank you so much for joining us today. And the topic, it's the second time you actually join us, and the focus again is going to be COVID-19 pandemic. And in light of some more information or development now with the availability of the new vaccines, which is wonderful. Just a reminder to our community that we had been living in a bit of a bubble, and we've been blessed by the fact that our numbers had been low for many months. But recently we've noticed an uptake in the number of cases. We still need to continue to have to follow public health measures in terms of physical distancing, mask indoors, etc. Even though we have vaccines, but that will take many months to actually be rolled out and to achieve its goal in terms of developing herd immunity in the population. Speaking of vaccines, there's been a lot of questions about vaccination, safety, do they even work, any side effects? And that's why we have Dr. Chakrabarti here with us with his expertise and connections, and he can tell us the inside scoop about both the Pfizer and Moderna RNA-based vaccines, and also even the other vaccines that are in development. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, great to be here.
So I know you live in a hot zone in Mississauga and the GTA, and I see that UHN and Toronto and Ottawa started vaccinating long-term care home residents. So what do you have to say about the Pfizer vaccine and the soon to be available, hopefully, the Moderna vaccine versus the other vaccines that we're used to, the protein-based as opposed to RNA-based vaccines?
Yeah, so I mean, the two vaccines obviously are this new mRNA technology. And when I say new, it's new in terms of being used for COVID-19. It actually has been, the technology has been around for almost 10 years. They tried to use it in things like Ebola and even chikungunya back, if you remember, in I think it was 2014, but both those diseases kind of fizzled out. So they didn't really have the application. But yeah, I mean, obviously these things, when they're new, I totally understand the questions that come around, but I think that overall this does look to be a pretty safe technology. For those of you who have we all have a bit of a biochem, that type of background, mRNA is a very unstable type of molecule that it gets in there, it gets into your cell, it's translated into a protein, and then it's gone. It's not like it's something that is entering your DNA. Both the Pfizer and the Moderna are like that. And, listen, when it's my turn, I'm going to be getting it. But overall, when you look at the number of people that were in the trial, it was a pretty safe thing with mainly injection site reactions and a little bit of myalgias. But I'm not worried at all in terms of its long-term effects.
Yeah, from my recollection, a long time ago in biochemistry classes, is DNA translates to RNA, transcribes to RNA. And then and then translates to protein. It's a one-way stream usually, unless you have a special reverse transcriptase enzyme that reverses it, which obviously the vaccine doesn't have. So there's no way for this to go back into the nucleus of the cell or interfere with any of our genetic makeup.
That's exactly right. And, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a little bit different, as well as the AstraZeneca ones, where they do have something that enters the nucleus, but still it is a one-way street, as you put it. It kind of goes from it's already a transcribed mRNA, which is then being translated into the protein, and then it's gone. And the other thing to remember that mRNA is quite unstable. So even something like shaking it will often break it down. So it's definitely not something that's going to be in your body for a long time.
Right. So what's your feeling or intel about the new mutant that's developing in the UK or spreading in the UK? My understanding is like in terms of the efficacy of this vaccine against it.
Yeah, this has been a big news in the last week. And to be honest with you, variants from mutations happen all the time. And I'm not exactly certain why this one has garnered so much news. I saw the public health report that came out, and they were saying that because they saw this in a massive part of South London and southeastern UK, that this means that it's more transmissible. But actually, we don't have that data yet. It's possible. I think it's good to be aware of this and to watch the data as it comes out. But right now, it's almost like they're calling something causation when it's actually correlation. But that said, the immune response that you get from the vaccines, especially the first two that we have, Pfizer and Moderna, it's a kind of a multi-pronged response that is not affected by just a little bit of change to the spike protein. So even with this new variant, It's not expected to cause any attenuation of the vaccine towards the virus. And at least the one thing is it's going to get us out of the pandemic, the virus. We might have some more vaccines later on down the road in terms of having to get it a second or third time, but that's not going to be in the pandemic situation, more of a seasonal situation like influenza.
Great. So, I mean, at worst case scenario, if the makeup changes quite a bit, then we can reprogram our vaccine or the RNA makeup to match the mutation, I suppose. We'll just have to revaccinate again, though.
Yeah, just like with influenza, and RNA virus, that is what part of their makeup and part of their behavior is that they mutate over time. This is no different, and once this is expected to become a seasonal virus, and I expect, I've talked to a lot of my virology colleagues who think every 2 to 3 years you're going to need a separate vaccine.
Having said this, regardless of the mutation, and there's going to be many mutations of the same virus, I mean, the way to stop it from spreading is still the same. It's still basic public health measures, the physical distancing, the mask indoors, and the washing hands. So I'm seeing many people on extreme sides of the spectrum. Some say we want to have the vaccine right away, and some say we don't want to have the vaccine at any cost. But regardless, even though hopefully we'll have enough vaccination for everybody who wants it, and hopefully we'll achieve the 70-80% vaccination to achieve herd immunity. But then at the end of the day, this will not happen overnight. So what is your message to our residents here over the next few months? Now we're entering winter.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point that even though the vaccine looks very effective, it's excess of 90%, 95% in the case of the Moderna, when you look at it, it's going to take time for that to happen as it's going to be rolled out in multiple waves with the highest priority people that they get sick easily, and also the people that can spread it to those populations. It's going to be a while. I would say April is going to be the first time we see it in the regular the general population, as they call it. I think that we are going to start seeing changes by the springtime, by June, but things going back to normal, it's going to be a while. I think that even the end of 2021 is a feasible thought on that. So it's going to be very important for us to keep with our physical distancing, masking. We sound like a broken record, but it's so important to maintain those things. They will eventually be removed, but it's going to take a while.
Okay, so at least compared to a few months ago, we have a light at the end of the tunnel. We do have the vaccines now, which is wonderful. But we can't let our guards down. We have to continue to basically practice all the public safety measures until we all get vaccinated, or at least a good chunk of us get vaccinated.
That's exactly one thing I say, exactly what you were alluding to. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, but we still have to get through the tunnel, and there's still ways to go. But I just think that with this vaccine, we have a very effective weapon against the virus. So at least the biggest thing that we want, getting out of the pandemic, I do foresee that happening in the next several months. And then this virus becoming a more seasonal thing. But it's important, exactly as you mentioned, not to let our guard down, and we will get through this.
And what's your feeling about this latest lockdown? I mean, nobody wanted the lockdown really, but then we kind of forced to, and we had no options.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I'll say one thing, even people who are pro-lockdown don't like lockdowns, because we know the kind of collateral damage that happens, mental health, small businesses, all these things are very, very important. I think when you get to a certain point where the virus is out of control, there's really not much else you can do, especially when contact tracing becomes overwhelmed. And we were seeing this happening outside the GTA, or the GTHA as we now call it. And this was something that needed to be done. I will say one thing that I'm concerned about in my region is that the lockdown does not hit essential businesses, places like retail or factories, food processing plants, and we have a lot of that in the Peel region. And also indoor gatherings. We can have as much lockdown as we want, but you can't monitor and enforce a gathering of 6 or 7 people that's happening in someone's private home. So I really do tell people that whatever you can do to keep your contacts low, keep things in your household, or if you live in a green or orange zone, I think it is, that you want to abide by the indoor and outdoor limits, because I really do think that our actions now are going to make a difference on what happens in the next month, 2 months after Christmas.
Yeah, my understanding, even the lockdown basically is just to slow down the growth and bend the curve a bit, not necessarily eliminate it, and then at least it becomes more manageable, so we can go back into contact tracing and at least have a handle on things and not overwhelm the healthcare system or ICU beds, for example.
Yeah, and you know, we definitely are feeling the pinch here in the Peel region, and more so than even downtown Toronto, just because of the kind of structure of the population here. But yeah, whatever we can do to take that strain off the system is going to be very helpful, and that's why, you know, things starting out in the households and keeping contacts in the community as low as possible is one step towards helping that.
That's great. So just one more thing for our residents here in Lambton is that so far we're still fortunate that our numbers are not as overwhelming compared to the rest of the province. Our hospitals are operating normally. Our RC capacity and occupancy is still pretty good. So hopefully we'll keep it this way. It's basically up to all of us combined as a community. So thank you so much. And I wish you all the best in Peel and Mississauga and Toronto. And would love to have you here one day as well. And hopefully once all these restrictions are relaxed a bit, and we'll meet in person again. Thank you so much and stay safe.
Thank you so much for having me. And you know what? I can't wait to get back to Sarnia to have some fries. That's my favorite thing under the bridge. So I'll be doing that soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thanks, is that good?
Yeah. Did I?